Hey guys, it's Jessie, and I am coming back to you with a new book review that's finally on time. The last one was not because it was finals, and also I was able to read this really quickly because I recently had a breast reduction, so I have not really been able to do anything. And I read this book in maybe like 3 days, and that's mostly because it was really good, but also because I couldn't really do anything else. In case you remember, I used to look very different. Now I look better. So back to the book. Aristotle and Dante discover the secrets of the universe by, I think it's pronounced Benjamin Elias Sáenz. I don't really know because I never took Spanish. This book was the one that we read for December. This book got a lot of hype, and I actually did not hear about this book until this year, and that's mostly because, I don't know, I think that's when it won all these awards, which is weird because it came out in 2012. But also the Banging Book Club read this book earlier this year, I think, sometime in the summer. This is the story of two Mexican boys living in El Paso, Texas, in the 1980s. And it first starts off as like a platonic friendship, and then at the end, sort of, it blossoms into a romance. Obviously, I chose this one to fill the gay category. Neither one of the characters ever fully identify, but that's sort of the sense that you get that they're both gay. Takes place between the times that they are 15-ish to the time that they're like almost 17. I did give this book a 5 out of 5 stars. I do think it's probably one of the best books I've read this year. I really, really resonated with Ari. I definitely have felt like him a lot, and especially when I was a teenager. Probably what I really liked about this book is that the chapters are really short and they're fast-paced, so it's easy to get through, but I also really liked that there weren't too many characters, and the characters that there were seemed very genuine and interesting, and like Sáenz didn't really have to like push hard to make you like his characters. They were just inherently like someone that you felt was like you. So he also has a lot of lines that I think are really, really poignant, especially for teenagers. So I'm just going to sort of like read out some of my favorite lines right now. The problem with my life was that it was someone else's idea. That's one of my favorites. I underlined that because I bought this book so I can underline it. I really like on page 42, he's out with Ari's the narrator. I should have prefaced that. He is out with Dante's family in the desert looking at the stars. And it's really nice because I feel like there's a lot of hints of depression in this book. Mostly, I think, because gays have a lot of depression. But there's this part where he's talking about like looking out at the stars, and instead of making him feel small, it makes him realize that there was something inside of him that mattered. And I really liked that. I don't know, there's just like a lot of things that it's like, yeah, this is something that you should be reaffirming for teenagers. Like, page 173, Dante and Ari are like writing letters to each other, and Dante writes, "Whatever happened to reading a book because you liked it?" And I feel like that's something that gets lost a lot in high school. Like, I stopped reading because I had so much fucking homework. And also because they are always giving you these books that you have to read that aren't any good. They don't resonate with teenagers anymore. And so you end up reading a lot of books not because you like them, but because you have to. And yes, we do have a line about summer, which I will always underline lines about summer because I'm obsessed with the idea of it. You'll see that especially when we get to Invincible Summer, which we'll be reading in May, I think. The line is pretty far into the book, and it goes, "Summer was a book of hope." And he just like talks a little bit about summer, but I like don't want to read more than one line or two at a time because that is, ruining the book for you. There is, however, something that I do want to talk about that is a heavier topic. This book tends to sort of dance around heavy topics because Aristotle's family has a brother in jail and he's never talked about, and he's sort of like the last in the line of children in his family, and his dad was in Vietnam, and there's a whole issue with like not talking about PTSD and not talking about the brother, and that eventually that stuff gets worked out throughout the book, but when they reveal why the brother was in jail, it's because he beat a trans woman to death. And I wanted to spoil that because I think that's something worth noting and talking about. Is it's sort of, I don't know, it's talked about in a kind of transphobic way, and I think that is because it's supposed to be taking place in the 80s. The situation is that the brother was gonna get a prostitute, and he eventually finds out that the prostitute is a trans person who has not had a complete sex change, or however we're referring to it right now. But they refer to it as the prostitute turns out to be a guy, and that is transphobic. And I know that like in 2012 when Sands would have been completing the drafts and then publishing this, he would have known that that's not acceptable word choice anymore. And so I don't know if he was trying to make it more accurate to what they would have said in the 80s, and like that would have been accurate for people who are not familiar with trans people or trans culture. It just rubs me the wrong way. Not in a way that I would not recommend this or not give it 5 stars. It's just that I obviously am uncomfortable with the wording because it's not okay. I don't know. It's sort of like also brushed off, like it's brought up like it's something that's really like awful because the brother kills the trans woman, but I wish it would have been given more attention just because it is such a pervasive issue and trans women are still being killed, especially trans women of color, which this person likely was, because almost everyone in this book is Latino, Latinx. So, I don't know, just some things to think about. That's probably the most problematic thing with this book. But it was very, very good. I really like this book, so I highly recommend it. Next month, we will be reading, not otherwise specified, by my favorite author, Hannah Moskowitz. I have yet to read this book, so this will be a first time. The main character is a bisexual woman of color who has an eating disorder, I'm pretty sure, based off of Hannah's tweets and what she has mentioned about this book. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. She has also mentioned that this book was up against Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe for the Stonewall Award. And obviously they won. Sorry, Hannah. This is one of her favorite books that she's written, so I'm very excited to read this. If you have not checked it out, I did publish a Vine compilation last night from when I'm recording this, so that would have been Friday, December 22nd. So I think it's pretty good. Spent like 8 hours on it, so you should watch it. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.